Breaking tonight, a strikeout for opening day.
Those games are officially canceled.
The MLB season now delayed, and more games are now in jeopardy. Then, happening now, the State of the Union is over.
Freedom will always triumph over tyranny.
But hear why the heightened security isn't going anywhere. Plus, a community refusing to give up 8 years since an 8-year-old girl went missing. The renewed mission to get closure. 7 News at 11 starts now.
And right now at 11 o'clock, President Biden has wrapped up his State of the Union address, and it is your chance to weigh in. Go to our website, WJLA.com/vote now to participate in our Insta poll.
Yeah, here's the question. How do you feel about the future after the State of the Union? Better, worse, or the same? The results will show up live as you vote. Thank you for joining us. We have team coverage tonight from Ukrainians in our area watching closely to security.
And I'm live at the Capitol. I've been here all day long. You know, usually a State of the Union prioritizes the domestic policy or agenda. And we will get to that in a second. But first, the Russian invasion and the war on Ukraine. That was what the president started off a State of the Union with first. Have a listen.
Will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos. But while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger.
Well, now we will have reaction to that in just a moment. But first, the president also made some bold pledges on something that's affecting every American, and that is the skyrocketing inflation. Prices on gas, groceries, you name it. And he says it's been going on for months now.
So we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poorer. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages. More infrastructure and innovation in America. More goods moving faster and cheaper in America. More jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America.
And the president also said he knows that the pandemic has been top of mind for almost every American out there. And while the president cautioned about particular variants that might come down the road, he did say that the country now is finally turning a corner.
We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19, where severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. And thanks to the progress we've made in the past year, COVID-19 no longer need control our lives.
Now, we also heard from Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, who gave the GOP rebuttal to the president's address tonight. And she touched on crime, pandemic mandates, jobs. But the theme throughout was that the government has been too intrusive and ineffective.
We know that our problems require bold action, but we also know that bold action doesn't have to mean government action. It's Americans making their own decisions for their own families and future.
Now, you can watch both speeches, the State of the Union and the rebuttal. We posted the full speeches on our website at WJLA.com. And as you heard, the president is handling a number of different crises on a number of different fronts, and notably overseas, specifically that war in Ukraine. Russia's invasion is growing deadlier, as we have seen, by the day. 7 News' Justin Hinton actually got a chance to watch that speech with a woman in the D.C. area from Ukraine tonight. And I got to imagine she was on the edge of her seat to hear what the president had to say.
Yeah, she's been in the U.S. for quite some time, recently moved to D.C., and it was emotional for her. Her name is Olga Aru. She's a dancer who grew up in Ukraine, and she still has many friends there. But once the section of speech regarding Ukraine was over, she says she felt more hope. As President Joe Biden marked his first State of the Union address, Ukraine was the first thing he mentioned, as Olga Aru, a Ukrainian choreographer living in D.C., watched along.
Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them.
It is not a war. It's a genocide against the entire population.
It hasn't been easy for those living there. It also hasn't been easy for those watching it all unfold on their TVs, who used to call it home. The television tower that was blown up was in an area Aru studied in.
My academy was like a couple blocks away down the road.
But she says listening to President Biden's speech and the actions taken against Russia have provided some comfort. That includes cutting off Russia's largest banks from the international financial system, limiting Russia's access to technology designed to weaken its economy and military. Biden announcing the U.S. Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of Russian oligarchs, and the new announcement from Biden to close off American airspace to all Russian flights.
I do feel more hopeful, and I just wish that this among many other sanctions will help to bring a sooner end of this. Glory to Ukraine and glory to our heroes. Slava Ukraini, Героям слава.
Yeah, that's a common phrase used to show support for Ukraine. That show of support was also on full display in the chamber tonight. At the Alert Desk, Justin Hinton, 7 News.
Okay, Justin, thanks. Interesting perspective as well. I want to let you know I'll be back here at 11:15 to check in with you and give you some more updates about some of the takeaways from tonight's speech, specifically 3 takeaways from that speech. And again, keep in mind, we're very interested to know what you think about that speech. We've got WJLA.com/vote now. You can participate and answer a simple question. How do you feel about the future of the country? Better, worse, or no change after tonight's address? We'll check back in on that poll throughout the evening. And Michelle, let's send it back to you, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Domestically, the president also pledged to tackle the price of prescription drugs, citing the surge in insulin prices. He invited Joshua Davis from the Richmond area. He has type 1 diabetes. He got a standing ovation as President Biden wished him a happy birthday. He turned 13 yesterday. Road closures by the Capitol, meanwhile, the National Mall and over to the White House are starting to lift, but unlike past State of the Unions, heightened security on the Hill will be around for a few days. 7 News On Your Side's Annalisa Gale joins us now with a lingering presence as trucker convoys approach the D.C. area. Annalisa.
That's right, Michelle. Police did expand that roadblock during the president's speech, but now, look, you can see behind me, they're starting to clear out along Constitution Avenue. We do know leading up to the weekend, we'll likely continue to see that increased police presence as they prepare right now for that protest. As the president shared his first State of the Union address on Tuesday night, participants in the group known as the People's Convoy continued their journey to the district.
They want their own backyard cleaned up before we get involved overseas with anyone else.
With their latest stop in Indiana.
This isn't about just lifting the mandates. This is about the emergency orders being rescinded, our Constitution reigning supreme, and certainly accountability.
Ahead of the president's speech, some of their supporters staged a small rally near the Washington Monument.
Bottom line is they work for us, we the people, and we vote them in and out.
While activists continue to express their thoughts on the future of the nation, federal and local authorities are preparing for more potential demonstrations this weekend.
We have installed the temporary security fence around the U.S. Capitol. We're going to keep the posture in place as long as it needs to be in place, and we'll see what happens.
Convoy organizer Maureen Steele says truckers should arrive in the district around March 5th. And now that all eyes are off the State of the Union address, the Capitol Police will announce plans for removing that fence at a later date. They said they will let us know as soon as they have one. Live from Constitution tonight, Annalisa Gale, 7 News.
Annalisa, thank you. Turning now to the weather, a clear night and chance to really look ahead with some nice weather, a nice long stretch coming our way. So much 7 Chief Meteorologist Bill Kelly joining us now with the forecast. Bill?
Yeah, turning the corner, of course. It's now March, and so we expect our numbers to start getting a little bit warmer. We start tonight with temperatures much warmer than they were at the same time yesterday, and that will translate into a relatively warm morning. I wouldn't call it warm by any stretch, but out the door we're going to go upper 30s and low 40s. We're north of freezing. Very few, if any of you, see a 32-degree temperature on your thermometer in the morning. And as we widen this out, notice up to the north, just a little line here. We got a few showers. There is a frontal boundary up to the north that's going to drop on down for Thursday. But for tomorrow, look at the numbers. 47 by 9. By noon, we're in the mid-50s. We're heading into the 60s tomorrow. Even warmer as we look ahead We'll talk about that coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, we'll see you then. New at 11, there is no quit in the search for Relisha Rudd. It has been exactly 8 years since she was last seen. She would be 16 today. Jay Korf spent the evening with police and volunteers who handed out flyers in hopes of bringing her home.
Today I'll be out here passing out flyers. Thank you so much.
Community activists and D.C. police handed out flyers Tuesday night not far from the last place 8-year-old Relisha Rudd was seen on this very day 8 years ago. The hope, close a case that's haunted D.C. for nearly a decade.
Just the thought of this young lady now being 16 years old. This has been 8 years out of a life. That is just something that's just unimaginable.
The flyers feature an age progression photo of what investigators believe Relisha looks like now. Also created a neon sign beside the roadway to remind the world that this child needs our help.
Somebody knows something. Somebody knows something.
March 1st, 2014, Relisha and her suspected abductor, 51-year-old Khalil Tatum, were spotted on a camera at a D.C. hotel. Days prior, Relisha disappeared from the shelter she lived in with her family. Tatum worked at that shelter as a janitor. A month later, police discovered Tatum dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Rudd was never found, and no one has been arrested.
We need all hands on deck.
Black Rose Brown dedicates much of her time advocating for missing children and their families. She says this night is about more than flyers.
It's sharing awareness. It's keeping these cases updated. It's staying on law enforcement's back to make sure that they do their jobs. We need people's help.
While investigators won't share details, we're told this case will continue to have MPD's full attention until Relisha Rudd comes home.
We are still receiving tips, we're receiving information, and we're continuing to investigate, just as we were from day one.
Jay Korf, 7 News.
It's so hard to believe that it's been 8 years since the last time that she was seen in a grainy hotel surveillance video. 7 News on your side has been following this story every step of the way, and we will not give up on this. You can go to WJLA.com and search Relisha Rudd to see all of our original reporting.
All right, opening day is canceled. MLB and the players deadlocked. Just how many games have been canceled and what happens next now that both sides have left the bargaining table? Ahead in sports.
Plus, the National Park Service has its peak bloom outlook. Mark your calendars. We've got the dates ahead.
You're watching 7 News on your side at 11.
Back now live at the Capitol following the State of the Union address. And a reminder, we're really interested to know what you say about this, so you can go on our website, WJLA.com, take part in an Insta poll that we're putting together right now. Just take a couple of seconds. We're fascinated by some of the response, and it's been overwhelming so far. So we hope you'll take part in that. But I do want to head across the street to our Capitol Hill Bureau, to our chief political correspondent, Scott Thuman. Scott, we have heard now from the president, we've heard the rebuttal, we've heard from lawmakers. I'm just curious, what are your 3 big takeaways from tonight's State of the Union?
Yeah, Jonathan, look, first is the tough talk for Vladimir Putin and for Russia. The president saying he has no idea what he's in store for. And then he unveiled that move to close U.S. airspace to Russian aircraft. Just one more way to punish the Russian elites, the wealthy, stopping flights that are private flights, also cargo and commercial, and hope to put a little more pressure on Vladimir Putin to consider negotiations to stop the war. That's interesting. The second thing was this Made in America commentary. Essentially, he's saying, I'm aware that people are hurting, that supply chain issues are a real problem, that inflation is at a 40-year high. And how do we bring that down? We have to make more things here in America. There has to be more innovation. Semiconductors should be processed here, not overseas, so we don't have such a reliance on other countries. And that got a little bit of applause from both sides because people believe there needs to be more of that, although Republicans saying, hey, look, part of the reason we're suffering is because of your energy policies. We should also be digging here and not relying on overseas energy production. The last thing that I thought was kind of the biggest moment really was when he talked about the spike in crime. And he said the answer to all of that crime is not to defund police, but to fund police. And that got a standing ovation from Republicans in a world where we're so partisan. Interesting to see a moment where you had Republicans actually standing and cheering for the president.
Scott, I do want to ask you this one question. I know the president said that the United States stands behind Ukraine. We're offering up moral support, but we're not going to put boots on the ground in that country at all. We're going to wait and see the 30 NATO alliance countries, what they're going to do if he steps 1 inch outside of Ukraine. But he also said we're going to commit $1 billion in U.S. aid to Ukraine. The question becomes, how does that translate into getting those goods and those weapons to the Ukrainians?
Well, that's a difficulty that we've faced for about 8 years now, Jonathan. As you know, a lot of the support that we have provided for Ukraine over the years has been defensive type military hardware so that they can stand their own, but not necessarily offensive to enlarge in the war. But here's the thing that it also includes. I mean, we saw this through an announcement the other day with USAID, that it's going to be everything from food assistance to clean and available water for refugees. We're now more than 600,000 refugees who are fleeing to places like Poland and Romania. We can help on that end, even blankets to keep them warm. So there's a whole plethora of options there. But $1 billion, a lot of money. But it's the president's way of saying we're going to help out, but we're not putting boots on the ground inside Ukraine. That's for sure.
And he also said the sanctions could take time, weeks, months. I'm not sure a lot of folks in the Ukraine think they have weeks and months to hold out to see if those sanctions have the desired effect.
They may not.
Yeah. Scott, we appreciate you taking the time. Thanks very much. And again, the Instapoll that we have going on WJLA, we really are interested, and there's been an overwhelming response so far. If you just get on WJLA.com, you can vote on our Instapoll to ask whether you think the country is going in the right direction, do you feel better about it, or we're still not in a good direction. Right now, about half the folks who have been voting in our poll so far say that the country is going in the right direction. Again, you can continue to vote straight through the evening, and we'll share some of those results with you later as well. Michelle?
All right, thank you so much. Well, the National Park Service shaking their pink magic 8-ball, predicting peak bloom of the Yoshino cherry trees along the tidal basin for March 22nd to the 25th. That would be when 70% of the trees are fully flowering, and it looks like that. 7 News is a proud sponsor of the National Cherry Blossom Festival, which opens in just 19 days. That would make it March 20th. And so much careful work goes into that prediction. Yeah, they look at historical data, the weather, and so much more, Bill.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we look back and the average between stage 1, which is the green bud stage, and peak bloom is usually about 4 weeks. And we don't have, of course, stage 1 yet. The average is March 4th. Last year we didn't do it until March 11th. Then the second stage is when the florets are visible. Last year we did it on March 16th, the average March 14th, and that's the longest stretch that we have between the different stages, the first to the second. Then you get the final, you get the extension of florets, the peduncle elongation, then you get the puffy white, and as you mentioned, when 70% of those puffy white flowers are there, that's when it's peak. And this year, as you saw, March 22nd through the 25th. So it would be interesting. I mean, we're really getting close. Last year we had peak on March 28th. Before that it was March 20th, but we get back to 2019 and 2018 and it was not until April. And so we're getting there. Tides are starting to turn. I think you're going to notice it overall over the next couple of days, or at least into the 7-day forecast. So tomorrow morning we are above freezing, a little chilly, but anywhere between the upper 30s and low 40s. And then looking at your day tomorrow, a quick rebound in temperatures. I see us into the mid to low 60s. Great day to get outside, a mix of sun and clouds. Numbers will drop this time tomorrow night. We're still at about 50 degrees. Then we're well north of freezing by Thursday morning. But notice, temperatures don't move much on Thursday, and that is because our next weather maker is going to be working on through. So freshly updated Futurecast 48 hours from now. Watch what happens by Thursday morning. We pick up a couple of light showers overnight and into early Thursday morning. Not a big rainmaker, but notice the way things are dipping to the south. It is a shot of some cooler air on Thursday and Friday before a big rebound. It's fairly quiet over the next couple of days around here. But what we're going to be tracking is, again, a mild day, beautiful day tomorrow. And we're going to drop it down 52 and 48. Then it reverses ahead of a larger weather system. So Saturday and Sunday, look at the change. 29 on Friday morning. By Sunday afternoon, we're at 75. Huge temperature change. And we are going to be tracking the potential for some rain Sunday, Monday, and into Tuesday. Scott, we'll send it on over to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. The Wizards hoping to get back in the win column tonight against Detroit, plus a dark day for baseball. We'll explain why the two sides could not lock down a new deal. Sports is next. Stay with us.
And now, the Toyota Sports Desk, sponsored by your Toyota dealers.
Oh, it was a sad day for baseball fans. Tonight, Major League Baseball announcing the first 2 series of the regular season for each team have been canceled. On the 90th day of the lockout, the Players Union rejecting Major League Baseball's final proposal for a new collective bargaining agreement. So, for the first time since 1995, regular season games are canceled and will not be made up.
We are doing our very, very best to try to reach an agreement. Unfortunately, it's not something that's solely within our control. It takes 2 parties to reach an agreement.
A lockout is the ultimate economic weapon. In a $10 billion industry, the owners have made a conscious decision to use this weapon against the greatest asset they have, the players.
In the NBA tonight, the Wizards hosting Detroit. Fourth quarter, Wizards up 2 and on the move. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope driving and scoring, 108-104 Washington. Then they come up big on defense. Kyle Kuzma blocks Cade Cunningham. That starts the break. Raul Neto lobs it up for Thomas Bryant. Yes, sir. Wizards snapped a 2-game losing streak, 116-113 the final. The Wizards return to action on Friday night. It's another home game facing Atlanta. We'll be right back.
All right, look at this. Before a security sweep of the Capitol for tonight's State of the Union, the ATF tweeted out this picture of the K-9 team that sniffed out any potential trouble. From left to right, you've got Claude from Boston, Stetson from Atlanta, and Sarah from Baltimore. Those are some good dogs. And enough time here for one last check on our Insta poll. A slim majority feel better now about the future of the country after the speeches tonight. Go to WJLA.com/vote now to participate. We'll leave it open for you overnight. And stay with us. We'll have a final look at the forecast when we come back.
All right, 3 quick things for you to know. We're looking down over the Tidal Basin because, in case you didn't hear, the cherry blossom peak bloom forecast now for March 22nd through the 25th. We'll let you know if and when that changes or gets altered. Dry and mild for us during the day tomorrow, 60s for your temperatures. Then we have a few showers for you on Thursday, again on Sunday and Monday, but the temperatures on Sunday and Monday, yeah, a few showers, but we're mid and upper 70s by that time, Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for joining us tonight. Jimmy Kimmel Live is coming your way next. And just want to give a shout out to our producer, Michael Jaffe, moving on to Baltimore, our sister station there. We'll miss you, bud.